Arthur POV, Lucy's eyes scan the studio, before landing back on me. We need to talk about this privately. Alright, I nod, curiosity piqued. Let's go to my office. As we walk down the corridor, Lucy takes in her surroundings. Looks like you've really hit it rich with your first movie, The Demonfather, huh? I can't help but smile. I'm just very lucky. That's true, Lucy agrees, surprising me. Once in my office, I decide to be frank. I've got to say, you're the last person I expected to visit me. Lucy settles into a chair, eyebrow raised. Oh? Who did you think would visit? Apollonia, I answer honestly. She hasn't visited you? Lucy seems genuinely surprised. I shake my head, then decide to cut to the chase. Anyway, Your Highness, what's the purpose of your visit? Lucy's expression hardens. Stop fooling around. What's wrong? Aren't I not a royal anymore? I can't keep the sarcasm out of my voice. So? Is there any real purpose for this visit? Lucy's eyes narrow, and I can tell she's choosing her next words carefully. Whatever brought her here, it's clearly important. And knowing Lucy, it's probably complicated. Well, it's simple, honestly. I've seen the box office numbers for The Demonfather. $280 million is no small sum. She pauses, her tone shifting to something more official. As the Minister of Economic Development and Tourism, I believe it's only right that the kingdom should benefit from such a successful film. I frown, not liking where this is going. What do you mean? Lucy leans forward, her voice taking on a lecturing tone. The kingdom has implemented a new tax structure for films, particularly those that perform exceptionally well, like yours. We're introducing a tiered system based on box office revenue. As she explains the details, I can't help but draw parallels to the entertainment industry taxes from my previous life. It's clear Lucy's trying to establish something similar here. So, let me get this straight, I interrupt, my mind racing. You want to take a chunk of the profits from successful films, ostensibly to benefit the kingdom? Lucy nods, seemingly pleased I've caught on. Exactly. It's a reasonable measure to ensure the kingdom's growth aligns with the burgeoning film industry. I lean back in my chair, trying to mask my frustration. And I suppose this new tax conveniently applies retroactively to The Demonfather? Lucy's smile is all the answer I need. This is ridiculous. The government sees me thriving and immediately decides to take a cut. Though I despise this new law, I can't exactly go toe-to-toe with the royal family or the government right now. 8 I let out a heavy sigh. Alright. I'll pay the tax. But, I lean forward, fixing Lucy with a hard stare, how can I be sure I'm not being singled out here? That this isn't some personal vendetta dressed up as policy? Lucy's expression doesn't waver. Arthur, you have nothing to worry about. This law applies to all filmmakers, not just you. We're not in the business of playing favorites or holding grudges. I nod, not entirely convinced but knowing better than to push further. After hammering out a few more details, Lucy bids her farewell. As soon as she's gone, I slump in my chair, a wave of frustration washing over me. It's so damn stupid, I mutter, shaking my head. 3 But I can't dwell on this. There's work to be done. I force myself up and head back to the team. We need to finish editing so I can focus more on the computer project. This tax nonsense won't stop me. If anything, it's just fueling my determination. I've already started hiring fresh graduates who know their way around binary, mechanics, and other complex fields. We're making progress, slowly but surely. 3 As I rejoin my team, I push thoughts of taxes and royal interference to the back of my mind. We've got a movie to finish and a technological revolution to start. No time for self-pity. Alright, I call out, clapping my hands to get everyone's attention. Let's see where we're at with this edit. We've got a world to wow. Anus Hades POV, one life in Apple City's changed since The Demonfather hit it big. Suddenly, the Leviathan family and other demon mobs are getting respect from gangs and races we used to have to strong-arm. Can't say I hate it. Sure, the film didn't exactly blow me away, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't grateful. It's done wonders for demonkind. And that Prince Arthur? My respect for him's gone through the roof. Only thing that grates on me is how the boys have started calling Don Leviathan Don Corleone. In my book, Leviathan's got Corleone beat, hands down. I'm heading down the street when I catch a snippet of conversation. Did you hear? Arthur's cooking up a new film. They're saying it'll make the Demonfather look small time. My ears prick up at that. Another film? What's this prince got up his sleeve now? Another mob story? Arthur POV, January 7th, 1272. We've finally wrapped up editing, and I've got to hand it to our new computer, it's made a world of difference. Sure, programming the thing was a headache and a half, but it significantly reduced our editing time point when the process wasn't without its challenges, but seeing the final product come together faster than ever before makes all those late nights worth it. It's not just about speed, though. The precision and consistency the computer brings to the table have elevated the quality of our work. Today's the big day. I've invited the Lava Brothers for a private viewing of Lord of the Rings. My stomach's in knots as Fart Lava, the CEO, and Ray Lava walk in. .1 Fart extends his hand, all smiles. It's great to see you, Arthur, when I shake his hand, trying to keep my cool. Likewise. Thanks for coming. As I lead them to the studio theater, my mind's racing. This is it. Months of work, millions of dollars, and more than a few gray hairs have led to this moment. So, Ray pipes up as we settle into our seats, heard you had some interesting casting choices for this one. I can't help but chuckle. You could say that. Let's just say we've got a few surprises in store. Ray leans in, a mix of curiosity and concern in his voice. Word on the street is you've sunk millions into this project. That true? Fart nods, adding, we've heard some pretty wild numbers being thrown around. I take a deep breath, meeting their gaze. It's a significant investment, yes. But when this film hits theaters, the world will see what a big production really means. It'll redefine what's possible in cinema. They nod politely, but I can read the doubt in their eyes. It's clear as day what they're thinking, yeah, right. More like money wasted. I bite back a sigh. Can't really blame them for their skepticism. In their shoes, I'd probably be thinking the same thing. But they haven't seen what I've seen. They don't know what we've created. Look, I say, leaning forward, I know it sounds crazy. But trust me, this isn't just another film. It's something entirely new. Fart Lava POV, a new film from the prince behind the Demonfather, it's definitely caught my attention. Still, I can't help but doubt it'll live up to the hype. The Demonfather feels like a one-hit wonder, and that's a widely held opinion. As the theater darkens and the film begins, something immediately stands out. The aspect ratio is wider, more expansive. And these colors, they're a cut above other colored films I've seen. I lean towards Arthur, curiosity getting the better of me. The film looks different. New camera tech? Arthur nods, a hint of pride in his voice. We've expanded the aspect ratio. Makes for a better viewing experience. It'll definitely boost audience engagement, Ray chimes in, nodding approvingly. He's got a point. While I'm skeptical this film can top the Demonfather, I've got to hand it to Arthur, his technological innovations are impressive. This new camera and its wider ratio, it's something to keep an eye on. My thoughts are interrupted as the film's logo fades and a woman's voice fills the theater. The world has changed. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. I smell it in the air. An elf, no doubt about it. Her narration continues, introducing the rings of power given to 3 elves, 7 dwarves, 6 men, and the 3 demons. Then comes Sauron's introduction, and I'll be damned if it doesn't grab my attention. Maybe there's more to this film than I thought. 1. Arthur POV, throughout the screening, I can't help but steal glances at the Lava Brothers. Their reactions are like an open book, and it's a story I'm eager to read. At first, they're all curiosity and polite interest. But as the film progresses, their expressions run the gamut. Gone is the skepticism, replaced by genuine engagement. They're not just watching, they're experiencing. I see them lean forward during tense moments, grin during light-hearted scenes. When Frodo, Gandalf, and Aragorn face challenges, the brothers are right there with them, silently cheering them on. 2 hours fly by, and as the credits roll, I turn to gauge their final reaction. The transformation is stark. These aren't the same men who walked in expecting a disappointment. Their faces are serious, almost reverent. Ray and Fart exchange a look before turning to me, their expressions intense. Name your price, Mr. Morningstar, Ray says, his voice urgent. We'll do anything to acquire the rights to your film. I can't help but chuckle. This is more than I could have hoped for. Well, I begin, savoring the moment. Let's discuss terms, shall we? Fart nods eagerly, his eyes bright with excitement. The film is fantastic. I can't wait to see how other races react, especially the humans. It's certainly better than the Demonfather, no doubt. Ray chimes in. I chuckle to myself. Back in my old world, that statement would have sparked endless debates. Here, though? Ray's just stating facts. The fantasy elements and magic in Lord of the Rings resonate more with this world than the Demonfather's focus on guns and mob politics. Point 5. We move to a private room, the brothers still gushing about the film. Once settled, the mood shifts to something more serious. Let's talk numbers, Fart begins, leaning forward. We're prepared to offer $5 million up front for the distribution rights in the Morningstar Kingdom. I raise an eyebrow, impressed but not showing it. Go on. Ray jumps in. Plus 60% of the box office earnings. We'll handle all marketing and distribution costs. And, Fart adds, we're willing to discuss potential sequels. Same terms, locked in now. I lean back, considering. It's a generous offer, more than I expected. But I can't appear too eager. I nod, a smile playing on my lips. That's a strong start. I see you're upping the upfront payment and taking a bigger slice of the box office this time around? Fart leans back, a wry grin on his face. We've learned from the past, Mr. Morningstar. The Demonfather earned us a pretty penny, sure, but in hindsight? Giving up that much of the box office share was, well, let's just say we've had some regrets. I can't help but laugh. Regrets? Didn't you want to help revolutionize demon cinema? Ray chuckles, shaking his head. Of course we did. But watching that 30 million roll in from the kingdom alone and knowing what could have been. It stings a bit, you know? I appreciate their honesty. It's refreshing in this business. Fair enough. Now, about international distribution. I've hit some roadblocks with studios abroad. Lots of doubt floating around. You mentioned having connections? Fart and Ray exchange a look before Fart speaks up. We've got a few strings we can pull. Whitlock Pictures, one of the big 6 human studios in Empirica, for instance. I hold up a hand. Empirica's covered. Bryan Brothers is handling that. I'm more interested in Evros, Southeast Anatolia, East Watch, and the Eden region. The brothers' eyes light up at this. Ray leans forward, suddenly more interested. Now that's an interesting market. We might be able to help you there. Fart nods, his expression serious. Those regions are tough nuts to crack. They're especially skeptical of demon productions. The Demonfather helped a bit, but overall? The industry still looks down on us. They even believe the Demonfather will be the first and last good demon film, Ray adds, shaking his head. We were starting to believe it too, until we saw this masterpiece you've just made. I nod, understanding their perspective. Breaking our bad reputation isn't easy, but I assure you, things will be different with Arthur Morningstar in the demon entertainment industry. A few hours ago, Ray and Fart might have scoffed at such a bold statement. But after watching Lord of the Rings, they can't help but feel there's truth to my words. Ray leans forward, his tone genuine. Your film, The Demonfather, alone inspired so many demon filmmakers. Now, with another masterpiece coming? It'll definitely inspire even more. I can't help but feel a surge of pride at his words. It's one thing to believe in your own vision, but to hear others starting to believe too? That's fulfilling. Days after striking a deal with the Lava Brothers, the entertainment industry's buzzing with news of Hellfire Studios' latest project. Newspapers and magazines are filled with speculation about what I've cooked up this time. One newspaper catches my eye, one-hit wonder, exiled Prince Arthur, secures deal with Lava Brothers. Is lightning about to strike twice, or will this be his final bow? The article goes on to question whether I can replicate the success of the Demonfather or if I'm just riding on past glory. A well-known demon magazine chimes in, Lava Brothers claim Hellfire Studios' new film surpasses the Demonfather. Has the heat gone to their heads? The piece speculates that the Lava Brothers might have been suckered into a bad deal, questioning their judgment and my ability to deliver. These doubts and mockeries roll off my back. Let them speculate. Let them doubt. The film will speak for itself when it hits theaters. As I set the papers aside, I can't help but smile. They have no idea what's coming. Lord of the Rings isn't just going to meet expectations, it's going to shatter them. Point 5. Let them talk. Soon enough, they'll be eating their words. In the meantime, the group of fresh graduates I've hired are proving invaluable to the computer project. With their help, George and I are making significant strides. At this rate, we might have the world's first computer with a monitor and keyboard, capable of coding in assembly, within 2 or 3 months. Our research is conducted in utmost secrecy, hidden away in a secure room. The chemicals and minerals we're working with are no joke. Some are potentially carcinogenic, others might cause respiratory issues or worse if mishandled. We take no chances, donning full protective gear before entering the lab. We look like a bunch of paranoid doctors, but better safe than sorry. As I survey the busy group, I can't help but feel a mix of satisfaction and anxiety. I'm extra strict about security protocols. No one leaves without decontamination, and outside contact is severely limited. I know these kids should be grateful I gave them jobs when no one else would. But gratitude only goes so far. I can't risk our work leaking out, no matter how unlikely it seems. Watching them work, I remind myself that this isn't just about creating a computer. It's about revolutionizing an entire world. The stakes are too high for complacency. Arthur POV, 2 dwarves, Drake and Josh, have quickly become the MVPs of our computer project. Their extensive knowledge of the Ward engine from Stonecraft Kingdom puts them leagues ahead, even outpacing George in computer logic. With them leading the team, our progress has been remarkable. Their expertise allows me to split my focus, dedicating more time to the upcoming release of Lord of the Rings with the Lava Brothers. Today, Fart introduces me to a potential partner. Mr. Morningstar, we've secured a distributor for the Moonlight Kingdom, he says, gesturing to the elf beside him. This is Kyle Love. One Kyle greets me with a warm smile. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Morningstar. I nod, returning the smile. Likewise, Mr. Love. I've had some enlightening discussions with Fart, Kyle continues, his eyes bright with excitement. He invited me to view the film at his studio, and I must say, I was thoroughly impressed. Oh? I lean in, genuinely curious. What were your thoughts? Kyle's smile widens. It was exceptional. In fact, I was wondering if you'd consider premiering the film at our kingdom's most prestigious event, the Moonlight Film Festival. My eyebrows shoot up. The Moonlight Film Festival is no small affair. It's the kind of platform that can launch a film into the stratosphere of critical acclaim. That's quite an offer, I say, my interest piqued. I turn to Fart, are you on board with premiering at the Moonlight Film Festival? Kyle and Fart exchange a glance before Kyle speaks. I've discussed it with Fart, and he's supportive. He believes your studio's film is worthy of our prestigious festival. Fart nods in agreement. Absolutely. Lord of the Rings deserves to be part of such a renowned event. I consider this for a moment. When exactly does the festival take place? It begins 2 weeks from now, Kyle replies. My brow furrows. 2 weeks? Will the festival committee even accept our film on such short notice? Kyle's face lights up with a hint of pride. Don't worry about that. I've been pulling some strings at the festival. I can fast-track the submission process and ensure it gets a prime slot. The committee owes me a few favors, and your film is exactly the kind of groundbreaking work they're always seeking. As I listen to Kyle's explanation, I start to realize this elf might be more influential than he initially let on. His confidence and connections could be invaluable. Point 1 I see, I say, reassessing Kyle. That's quite impressive. You seem to have significant pull in the festival circuit. Kyle's smile turns a bit mysterious. Let's just say I know how to navigate the industry. So, what do you think? Are you ready to take Lord of the Rings to the Moonlight Film Festival? I lean back, weighing the pros and cons. It's a risk, but the potential payoff. Tell me more about the festival's reach. How could this impact our wider release? Kyle chuckles softly. Is that even a question? The Moonlight Film Festival is the most prestigious event in the Elven film calendar. Critics from across the world attend, not just elves. A strong showing there can set the tone for your entire release. Imagine the buzz when human and dwarf critics start raving about a demon-made film. It'll break down barriers, challenge preconceptions. Plus, the festival has a history of launching international hits. Films that premiere there often see boosted ticket sales across all kingdoms. I nod along, mulling it over. Kyle's points are solid. This could be the perfect launchpad for Lord of the Rings. Alright, I say, extending my hand. Let's submit the film to the Moonlight Film Festival. Kyle grasps my hand, his grip firm and grateful. Thank you, Mr. Morningstar. This film will definitely resonate with the elves. I chuckle. I hope they do. Oh, they will. No doubt about it, Kyle says with a grin. Then, his expression turns curious. By the way, those rings in the film, the ones with immense power, forged by elves, coveted by all races, did you draw inspiration from ancient history? Do such rings exist in our world's past? 3. The question catches me off guard. For a moment, I'm transported back to my previous life, to the books that inspired this story. But here, now, in this world of magic and multiple races, the line between fiction and potential history blurs. Well, I say, choosing my words carefully, let's just say that in a world as magical as ours, who knows what powerful artifacts might have existed in the past. The rings in the film are fiction, but they're inspired by the kinds of legends and myths that exist in all cultures. Kyle nods, seemingly satisfied with my answer. Then his eyes light up with a new thought. You know, watching the film reminded me of some ancient history from this demon kingdom. There's an old legend about a crown belonging to a great demon lord. One fart, his interest piqued by the mention of demon history, chimes in. Oh yeah, the great demon lord. Some say he's just a legend, but I believe he really existed. He leans in, lowering his voice conspiratorially. I've heard his ancient crown and power pole are hidden somewhere in the royal castle. Suddenly, Fart's eyes widen as he remembers who he's talking to. I can't help but chuckle at his expression. Sorry, Fart mumbles, scratching the back of his head in embarrassment. I wave off his apology. It's fine. Go on, you can talk about it. I'm not part of the royal family anymore, remember? Fart just shakes his head, clearly uncomfortable. Nah, let's change the subject. I don't push it. I can't blame him for feeling awkward. Truth is, I've heard those rumors too, whispers about the great demon lord's crown and power pole hidden somewhere in the castle. But in all my years living there, I never saw a trace of them. Then again, as the black sheep of the family, there's a lot I probably wasn't privy to. Point 2. After seeing Kyle and Fart off, I check in on the computer project before heading home. The evening air is cool as I drive to my apartment, my mind already shifting gears. Once inside, I settle at my desk and pull out my sketches. The familiar figures of Goku and Bulma take shape under my pencil as I continue working on my adaptation of Dragon Ball. It's become my evening ritual, a way to unwind after the chaos of the day. Point 2. I've been at this for a few weeks now, whenever I can steal a moment in the evenings. The pages of Chapter 1 are almost complete. I'm on page 30 out of 32. Goku's innocent face and Bulma's exasperated expressions are starting to feel like old friends. As I shade in the details of Goku's power pole, I can't help but chuckle. The irony isn't lost on me. Just hours ago, I was discussing similar mythical items supposedly owned by the great demon lord. Life has a funny way of drawing parallels. Point 2. Despite the late hour, I decide to push through and finish Chapter 1. The familiar characters take shape under my pencil, each panel bringing this world to life. It's a different kind of creation from filmmaking, more intimate somehow. Finally, with a satisfied sigh, I put the finishing touches on the last page. Flipping through the completed chapter, I nod to myself. Not bad for an exiled prince turned filmmaker turned manga artist. But I'm not done yet. Riding the wave of creative energy, I start sketching out layouts for Chapter 2. The story's really starting to take shape now, and I can't help but wonder how this world will receive it. 2 hours later, my eyes are starting to burn and my hand is cramping, but I've got a solid start on the next chapter. Stifling a yawn, I finally admit defeat and head to bed. Arthur POV. The next day, I decide to pour my energy into the computer development and Dragon Ball manga. With 2 weeks before the Moonlight Kingdom Film Festival, it's the perfect time to make some headway on these projects. In the lab, I find Drake and Josh hunched over a mess of circuits and code. Their dwarven craftsmanship is evident in the meticulous way they've arranged each component. How's it going, guys? I ask, peering at their work. Drake looks up, his eyes bright with excitement. We're making real progress, boss. We've developed unique machine code for each hardware component. Josh nods, adding, and we're designing the assembly language around it. It's like creating a new dialect for each part of the computer to communicate. I lean in, examining their work. By tailoring the code to each component, we can optimize performance. Yes, Drake grins. It's more work up front, but it'll make the final product much more efficient. How long until we see a working prototype? I ask. Josh scratches his beard thoughtfully. At this rate, maybe 2 months? It's hard to say for sure. We're in uncharted territory here. I nod, understanding the complexity of what we're attempting. 2 months sounds ambitious, but achievable. Keep up the good work. As I'm about to leave, Drake calls out, "Boss, wait a second." I turn back, raising an eyebrow. What's up? Drake and Josh exchange a glance before Drake continues, "We just wanted to say thanks. All this knowledge, these ideas, they're from you. We're just following your instructions." Josh nods in agreement. We wouldn't even know where to start without your guidance. Their words catch me off guard. For a moment, I'm not sure how to respond. It's true that my knowledge from another life is driving this project, but their skill and dedication are what's making it a reality. I appreciate that, I say with a genuine smile. But don't sell yourself short. Your expertise is what's turning these ideas into reality. Drake and Josh exchange a look, their faces beaming with pride. Josh speaks up, "We still want to thank you. Without you, we'd never have known such advanced engine knowledge was even possible." Drake nods enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're not just grateful for the job, but for the knowledge we're gaining from you." Their sincerity reminds me of George, that same kind-hearted dedication. I can't help but feel a surge of fondness for these 2.1. I reach out, patting them both on the shoulder. Just do your best, guys. Prove to the world that this engine is invaluable. Show everyone what you're capable of. Their eyes light up at the challenge. Drake and Josh nod in unison, a new determination visible in their stance. As I turn to leave, I can already hear them diving back into their work, discussing new ideas with renewed vigor. I can't help but smile to myself. It's moments like these that make all the challenges worth it. 2 weeks vanished in a flurry of activity, and suddenly it's time for the Lord of the Rings premiere at the Moonlight Film Festival. I've invited the key cast members Furful, Imkrag, and Kurt to join me for this momentous occasion. I arrive at Furland Airport well ahead of schedule, buzzing with excitement. It's not just about the film's release, I'm also eager to experience my first airship journey. Unlike the airplanes of my previous life, these airships are powered entirely by magic. They're piloted by high-ranking mages, graduates from the most prestigious magical institutions. It's a far cry from the jet engines and cockpit controls I'm used to. As I wait, I can't help but wonder about the differences between airships and airplanes. Will these magically powered vessels outperform the purely mechanical, electronically controlled airplanes of my old world? The engineer in me is itching to compare their efficiency, speed, and safety records. It's a strange feeling, having knowledge of 2 entirely different technological paradigms. In some ways, this world's magic-based tech seems more advanced. But in others, I can see potential improvements based on my previous life's understanding of aerodynamics and propulsion. I make a mental note to discuss this with George, Drake, and Josh when I return. Maybe there's a way to combine magical propulsion with more streamlined designs. As I'm lost in thought, I spot Furful, Imkrag, and Kurt approaching. My face breaks into a smile, particularly at the sight of Furful. I stand, arms outstretched. "It's been so long," I say, leaning in for a hug. Furful stops me with a hand, her expression amused. "We only haven't seen each other for a few weeks." "A few weeks is very long," I protest, attempting another hug. Furful steps back, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Well, for us elves with a lifespan of 300 years, a few weeks is about 0.1% of our lives. A few weeks is like a couple of days to us." She pauses, then adds, "Even for you demons or humans with your 200-year lifespans, a few weeks isn't that significant in the grand scheme of things, is it?" I can't help but pout playfully. "You're no fun, elf." Furful's smile widens as she changes the subject. "I heard our film is premiering at the Moonlight Film Festival?" I nod, studying her face. "That's right. Are you excited? It's your homeland, after all." Her eyebrows rise in surprise. "Homeland? Actually, no. I don't live in the Moonlight Kingdom. I'm from..." She hesitates before finishing, "the Rose's Kingdom." the Rose's Kingdom? On the Eden continent? I can't hide my surprise. That's unexpected. Furfle's eyes narrow slightly. What's unexpected about it? Nothing, I backpedal quickly, realizing I've stumbled into sensitive territory. As an awkward silence threatens to descend, I scramble for a way to recover. I guess I assumed all elves were from the Moonlight Kingdom. Shows what I know, huh? I offer a self-deprecating smile. Maybe you can teach me more about the Rose's Kingdom on the flight. Furfle's expression softens slightly. Perhaps, she says, a hint of mystery in her voice. I'm saved from further fumbling by the arrival of Fart and Ray. Fart and Ray started greeting me and the cast. After a 2-hour wait, our airship finally docks. We board along with the other passengers, and I can't help but marvel at the vessel. It's like a seagoing ship, but with the ability to fly. Point 1. As we settle into our seats, I notice the complex array of magical runes and crystals that seem to control the airship's direction and altitude. It's fascinating, but also looks incredibly complicated. Furfle leans over, a teasing glint in her eye. First time on an airship, Arthur? I nod, trying to maintain my composure. Yeah. What about it? She grins mischievously. Oh, nothing. Just hope you're not afraid of heights. Or sudden drops. Or unexpected magical turbulence. I roll my eyes, turning back to the window. As we take off, I can't help but compare this airship to the airplanes from my previous life. The differences become apparent quickly. The takeoff is jerky, lacking the smooth acceleration of a jet engine. Our ascent is uneven, the magical propulsion seemingly struggling against gravity. The cabin noise is actually louder than I expected, filled with the hum of active spells and creaking wood. As we level off, I notice our speed seems significantly slower than a commercial airliner. The ride is bumpier too, each gust of wind causing noticeable shifts. It dawns on me that while this airship is impressive for this world, it's vastly inferior to the airplanes I once knew. The magic-based technology, while versatile, lacks the refined engineering and consistent power of jet engines and aerodynamic designs. The journey to the Moonlight Kingdom is long but not uneventful. We pass the time with conversations, shared meals at various stops, and catching up on sleep when we can. After 2 days of travel, we finally arrive at our destination. Arthur POV, as we exit the airport, I'm struck by the Moonlight Kingdom's architecture. It's a seamless blend of aesthetic beauty and historical significance, typical of the Evros continent's commitment to preserving its cultural heritage. I've finally set foot in the sole elven kingdom on this human-dominated continent, I muse aloud as we walk. Kyle smiles at my observation. The Moonlight Kingdom is the most prosperous realm in Evros. Even other human kingdoms envy it. Evros would be nothing without the Moonlight Kingdom. Furfle nods in agreement. That's true. The first king of the Moonlight Kingdom brought significant changes to the continent. He revolutionized trade, agriculture, and urban planning. I can't help but play devil's advocate. But wasn't the expansion of trade networks also blamed for the plagues in the past? That's the argument humans use to downplay the Moonlight Kingdom's achievements. Kyle snorts dismissively. Plagues are a normal part of history, not solely due to trade. There were other factors, like poor sanitation in human cities. If not for our first king's laws on public hygiene and waste management, which human kings later copied, Evros would have suffered far worse. Indeed, Furfle adds. The Moonlight Kingdom's advancements in medicine and magical healing also played a crucial role in containing those plagues. As we continue our walk, I'm struck by how intertwined the histories of elves and humans are in this continent. It's a stark reminder of the complex relationships between races in this world. Well, I say, looking at the bustling streets around us, I'm looking forward to experiencing some of this prosperity and culture firsthand. Shall we explore a bit before the festival preparations begin? Kyle grins, a hint of pride in his voice. Of course. Let me show you why the Moonlight Kingdom is the jewel of Evros. Kyle takes us on a whirlwind tour of Moon City's highlights. We weave through the bustling city market, where elven craftsmen sell intricate jewelry and magical trinkets. The Red Tower looms over the city, its pearlescent walls shimmering in the sunlight. The Red Tower's been standing for over 1,000 years, Kyle explains proudly. It's said the first elven king built it in a single night using forgotten magic. Our stomachs growling, Kyle leads us to the Crescent Bistro, famous for its fusion of elven and human cuisines. You've got to try the Japon beef, Kyle insists, ordering for the table. It's imported from the East Watch. Melts in your mouth like butter. He's not wrong. The pasta is divine, but the beef, it's a revelation. Tender, flavorful, with a richness I've never experienced before. This might be worth the trip alone, I mumble through a mouthful. As the sun sets, the city transforms. Magical lights flicker to life, bathing the streets in a soft, ethereal glow. It's beautiful, Furful murmurs, her eyes reflecting the twinkling lights. We spend the next 2 days exploring hidden nooks and crannies of the city. Kyle's an inexhaustible source of historical tidbits and local legends. Finally, we settle into our hotel, the Silver Leaf Inn. It's quaint but comfortable, with a view of the festival grounds. As I lay in bed the night before the festival's opening, my mind races with anticipation. Tomorrow, we'll be introducing Lord of the Rings to the elven world. I just hope they're ready for it. The next day, we arrive at the Moonlight Film Festival, and I'm immediately struck by how much more bustling it is compared to the Furland Film Festival. Me, Furful, Fart, and the visibly nervous Imkrag and Kurt step onto the red carpet. The crowds lining the sides, a mix of demons, humans, elves, and dwarves, seem surprised to see me. That's Michael Corleone, someone shouts. Another voice corrects them, no, that's the infamous Prince Arthur Morningstar, before he became known as Michael. Really? I thought he was just an actor. What's he doing at the Moonlight Film Festival? Was he even invited? I can't help but chuckle at their confusion. A group of photographers rushes over, cameras flashing as they capture images of me and the cast. An elven reporter approaches, microphone in hand. Welcome to the Moonlight Kingdom, Prince Arthur, or should I say ex-prince? She doesn't wait for a response before continuing, your film was announced at the last minute to be appearing at this festival. Many film experts and critics think it's presumptuous to accept your film so late, even if you are the director and producer of The Demonfather. There are doubts about whether your new film is truly worthy of the Moonlight Film Festival. What do you say to that? I take a moment to compose myself before responding. What can I say? I smile, trying to strike a balance between confidence and humility. Honestly, if I said anything positive about my new film, it would sound like boasting and wouldn't be convincing at all. So I'll only say this, my film will speak for itself. The reporter looks visibly surprised by my response before regaining her composure. Well, it seems you're very confident about your film, she says. Let's just hope it'll be as good as The Demonfather. I nod with a chuckle, I hope so too. The reporter nods, then drops a bombshell that catches me off guard. It better be, because a famous and respected film critic, known not only in elven entertainment but worldwide, has announced he'll be viewing the film himself. My eyes widen slightly at this news. Caden Aegis will actually view my film? The elf reporter nods, a hint of excitement in her voice. Yes. He rarely attends the Moonlight Film Festival, but it seems your second film has caught his attention. She adds, well, it's not surprising, considering he just rated The Demonfather a stunning 8 out of 10 stars. Perhaps he's interested in seeing what you've brought to the table this time. After dropping this bombshell, the reporter moves on to interview other attendees, leaving me slightly stunned. I quickly approach Fart, nudging him. Why didn't you tell me that Caden, that famous elf film critic, will be viewing my film? Fart's eyes widen in surprise. He will view our film, he asks, seemingly as caught off guard as I am. I ignore his use of our film, acknowledging that in a way, as my partner, he can claim some ownership of Lord of the Rings. Fart scratches his head, looking a bit sheepish. Well, I didn't know he'd view our film. It's a pleasant surprise. I nod, my mind wandering back to what I know about Caden Aegis. He's been a legend in the entertainment industry since I was a kid. But he's not just any critic, he's known for giving directors suggestions to improve their filmmaking. Many of those directors went on to become household names. That's why Caden's opinion and advice are so valuable to filmmakers. He's not just a critic who tears things apart, he's a mentor, a guide. Makes sense, given that Caden was a director himself in his youth. Fart's voice breaks through my thoughts. Well, it will be better if Caden sees your film. He grins, confidence radiating from him. I'm sure your film will definitely satisfy him. I appreciate Fart's enthusiasm, but honestly, I don't mind either way if Caden sees my film or not. I'm just a bit surprised by the news. Sure, it would be a nice bonus if Caden gives Lord of the Rings a good review, but it's not something I'm hanging my hopes on. The Moonlight Film Festival's opening ceremony begins with pomp and circumstance. The festival director, Harold Green, takes the stage, welcoming everyone present and introducing notable guests. He mentions rising human and elven filmmakers, Marco River from Empirica, Kai Suzuki from Japan, and others from Southeast Anatolia. Several elves from various kingdoms, including the Moonlight Kingdom itself, are also introduced. I'm mentioned too, though like the others, I don't go on stage. The audience applauds politely at my introduction. Then, Harold's voice rises with excitement. Let's welcome one of our most notable guests at this festival, Caden Aegis. I join in the applause as the old elf steps onto the stage. His eyes sweep across the audience before he begins speaking, his voice carrying easily through the hall. Over the years of being a film enthusiast, what I can only say is that the picture industry is changing very fast. Especially lately, with the film The Demonfather. At the mention of my film, I feel numerous gazes turn in my direction. Caden continues, not only was it in color, but it also introduced ingenious directing techniques. The way it captured intimate family moments, juxtaposed with grand, sweeping scenes of power and conflict, was truly revolutionary. I feel Caden's gaze settle on me as he says, this incredible film that opened a new world in the picture industry, not only through colored pictures but through its storytelling, was not possible, of course, without the mastermind behind it. Arthur Morningstar deserves a heartfelt applause. The crowd erupts into enthusiastic applause. I maintain a modest smile as Caden continues his speech, his words resonating through the hall. Arthur Morningstar is proof that the picture industry I hold so dear has a bright future. Like Arthur, other talented filmmakers are emerging, challenging our views of entertainment. Some might call their work gore, illicit, dirty, or gritty. Others might even call it evil. But to us who love entertainment pictures, we call it art. He pauses, letting his words sink in. The film The Demonfather is one such example. It's gritty, it's illicit, it's cruel, and it's simply art. As Caden keeps mentioning my name and work, I become acutely aware of the envious gazes directed my way. But I don't let it bother me. This is part of the game, after all. Caden wraps up his speech after a few more minutes. Today, I am here simply to enjoy what the current generation of filmmakers is bringing. And I am expecting great things from you all. He bows to the crowd, met with enthusiastic applause. I join in the clapping, feeling a mix of pride and anticipation. As the applause dies down, the festival officially begins with the opening film from a major elf studio. The lights dim as Thorny Flower begins. It's a story about a shy young elf who falls for a beautiful but fierce elf girl who's part of a gang. At first, he's put off by her rough demeanor, but as time passes, he finds himself drawn to her. The catch? She's already involved with the gang's big boss. 1 As their relationship develops, the big boss discovers their growing attachment and sends killers after them. They survive, seeking help from a powerful police officer who aids them in bringing down the gang leader, but only after a series of challenges. Watching the film unfold, I can't help but smile inwardly. It's clear that The Demonfather has left its mark. The influence is unmistakable in certain scenes and themes. Despite being a comedy, the film handles its more serious moments with surprising depth. 1 As the credits roll, I join the audience in applause. For a commercial film, it's quite good. The cast and directors take the stage, bowing to the appreciative crowd. 1 A day after the non-competing films wrap up, the competing films kick off. The main theater and smaller venues prioritize these entries, creating a buzz of excitement throughout the festival. Finally, it's time for Lord of the Rings to premiere. As I make my way to the main theater, I'm struck by the packed house, thousands of seats, all filled with curious festival goers. Snippets of conversation float around me. I wonder if the film will live up to expectations. I don't know. But I hope it's bad. We don't need another demon film thriving like The Demonfather. 1 Don't be racist. I ignore the harsh comments, focusing instead on the task at hand. As I take the stage, all eyes turn to me. I approach the microphone, suddenly aware of how unprepared I am. I can't say much as I didn't prepare any speech for this moment, I admit. A soft chuckle ripples through the audience. But I do hope everyone will enjoy the film. That's all. More laughter follows. I can almost hear their thoughts. Other filmmakers go on and on about how hard it was to produce their film, and that's all you have to say? As I settle into my seat, the theater lights dim. The projector whirs to life, its beam hitting the projector screen. My heart races as the opening credits begin. This is it, the moment of truth. Will Lord of the Rings live up to the hype? Will it surpass The Demonfather? 1. Caden Aegis POV, finally. One of the films I've been eagerly anticipating is about to begin. Point 1. I watch as Arthur steps onto the stage for his speech, or so I thought. But he barely says anything before leaving. Interesting kid, I mutter to myself. Not that it matters whether Arthur gives an inspirational speech or not. What truly matters is the film he's brought to the table. That's what I've been waiting for. The origin of the film, be it demon or otherwise, is irrelevant. What matters is whether it's good enough to redefine the entire picture industry. Will the ex-prince produce another film that matches or surpasses The Demonfather? The thought lingers in my mind as the lights dim. The introductions for Hellfire Studios, Lava Brothers, and Love Pictures Entertainment flash across the screen. As the film itself begins to roll, I'm immediately taken aback. The scaling resolution is noticeably superior to The Demonfather and other recent colored films. It's a marked improvement in the viewing experience. This alone proves that, at least in terms of camera and film technologies, the ex-Prince Arthur is ahead of the curve. As my mind processes the impressive scale resolution, an ethereal female voice fills the theater. The world has changed. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. I smell it in the air. The narration continues, describing the forging of the great rings. My interest peaks as I watch the three elves don their rings. A ring? It seems to be quite important, I note mentally. Point 2. The voice goes on, detailing the distribution of rings to dwarf lords, men, and demons. Then comes the revelation of Sauron's deception and the forging of the One Ring. As the scene shifts to a barren, hellish landscape dominated by a looming volcano, I find myself deeply impressed. The visuals are breathtaking, unlike anything I've seen before. In the land of Mordor, in the fires of Mount Doom, the Dark Lord Sauron forged, in secret, a master ring to control all others. And into this ring he poured his cruelty, his malice, and his will to dominate all life. One ring to rule them all. The theater falls silent as we watch the epic battle between the alliance of men and elves against Sauron's forces. I feel a chill run down my spine, completely engrossed in the unfolding drama. It was in this moment, when all hope had faded, that Isildur, son of the king, took up his father's sword. The film and the elf's ethereal narration continue, drawing me deeper into the story. I watch, transfixed, as Isildur meets his fate, all for the sake of the ring. It seems that the ring is very much desired, I mutter under my breath, barely aware I'm speaking aloud. The power of the narrative has me in its grip. Point 1. History became legend. Legend became myth. As the opening sequence unfolds, I find myself utterly captivated. My role as a critic fades away, the notepad on my lap lies forgotten. In this moment, I'm not Caden Aegis, the renowned elf critic. Point 1. Right now, I'm just a person enjoying a film, completely immersed in its world and story. Lord of the Rings has effectively transported me, and we're only at the beginning. Caden Aegis POV, the opening scenes flash by, a whirlwind of history compressed into mere minutes. As the last echoes of battle fade, the narrator's voice washes over us once more. The ring came to the creature Gollum, who took it deep into the tunnels of the misty mountains. Gollum moves with an unsettling, spider-like grace, all gangly limbs and bulbous eyes. There's something both pitiful and terrifying about him. I've seen my fair share of monsters in films, but this. And there, it consumed him. The ring brought to Gollum unnatural long life. For 500 years it poisoned his mind. I can't help but shudder. 500 years, that's a long time even for an elf like me, and I'm pushing 180. The thought of spending centuries alone in the dark, corrupted by that ring, is chilling. And in the gloom of Gollum's cave, it waited. The narration continues, painting a picture of creeping darkness and growing fear. I find myself holding my breath, completely engrossed. When the ring abandons Gollum, I feel an unexpected pang of sympathy for the creature. But something happened then the ring did not intend. It was picked up by the most unlikely creature imaginable, a hobbit, Bilbo Baggins of the Shire. As the character Bilbo appears on screen, I observe with interest. The actor is clearly a half-human, half-dwarf, but in the context of the film, he's called a hobbit. It's an intriguing choice, creating this new race for the story. For the time will soon come when hobbits will shape the fortunes of all. The narrator's words linger in the air as the opening scenes draw to a close. I settle back in my seat, my mind reeling. By the gods, what an opening! In just a few minutes, this film has managed to create an entire world, rich with history and fraught with danger. I'm completely invested in this story, despite knowing it's all fiction. The scene shifts to a place called the Shire, where these so-called hobbits live. It's a pastoral setting that feels both unfamiliar and fantastical. As a carriage rumbles into view, carrying the character Gandalf, I find myself leaning forward again. I watch intently as Gandalf begins his conversation with another character, Frodo. 1. The film is very interesting so far, the critic next to me whispers. The opening alone, I can tell it's filmed with effort. I nod, not taking my eyes off the screen. Indeed, I murmur back, but whether the film will continue to stay good throughout is the question. Indeed, he echoes. As the scene unfolds, I push my critical thoughts aside. There will be time for analysis later. For now, I want to lose myself in this invented world, to experience it as purely as possible. The scene flickered and shifted, bringing us to Bilbo's party. The fireworks display was truly mesmerizing, especially the dragon effect. It was so convincing that even the characters called hobbits believed it to be a real, attacking dragon. Though as I watched, a question nagged at me: how was Bilbo using the One Ring? From what we've seen, it's an incredibly powerful artifact, capable of granting unnaturally long life. Yet the opening scene showed how it had poisoned Gollum's mind over time. Curiously, Bilbo didn't seem as affected. Could these hobbits be somehow immune to the ring's corrupting influence? But then came the scene where Bilbo had to part with the ring. His reluctance was palpable, and any notion of immunity I had was quickly dispelled. Bilbo's eyes grew wild with a manic gleam as he hissed, "It's mine, my own, my precious," in a voice eerily reminiscent of Gollum's. The audience around me chuckled softly at this display. I overheard snippets of conversation, I don't know why, but Bilbo looks pretty funny trying to imitate Gollum, one viewer commented. Another replied, yeah, but maybe it's just natural for anyone who bears the One Ring? Could be, a third voice chimed in. Probably one of the side effects. I shook my head slightly, refocusing on the film. The story progressed to Frodo learning about the One Ring from Gandalf. It was clear that even Gandalf, wise and powerful as he appeared, was tempted by the ring's allure. This scene truly drove home the ring's power for me. If it could tempt someone who seemed as wise and formidable as Gandalf, its influence must be truly formidable indeed. Time seemed to slip away as I found myself completely absorbed in the film. From Frodo's flight from the Shire with his companions to the chilling scene of the Nazgul's brutal attack on the hobbits, I was utterly captivated. Around me, I could hear the audience's reactions. An elven woman nearby whispered, her voice tinged with sympathy, "Oh, those poor hobbits." Her companion nodded, adding thoughtfully, "They seem like simple, kind-hearted creatures. It makes their suffering all the more difficult to watch." I found myself silently agreeing. The film had skillfully portrayed the hobbits as a good-natured race, setting them apart from the other peoples of Middle-earth. Unlike the proud elves, the sturdy dwarves, demons, or the ambitious humans, the hobbits were presented as humble, peace-loving beings. Diane James POV, I'll admit, I came into the screening with reservations. Yes, Hellfire Studios had impressed me thoroughly with the Demonfather, but that didn't mean I'd automatically love anything they produced. In fact, I'd believed the Demonfather to be a one-off masterpiece, nearly impossible to replicate not just for Hellfire Studios, but for any filmmaker. Yet here I am, watching Lord of the Rings, and it seems the ex-prince is determined to prove me and the others wrong. This film has me just as engrossed as the Demonfather did, perhaps even more so. I never thought I'd find myself more invested in a film so soon after the Demonfather, but here we are. As the minutes tick by, I remain on the edge of my seat, completely absorbed. While the final verdict is still out, I can't deny how impressed I am already. It's as if Arthur Morningstar is throwing down the gauntlet, challenging not just other filmmakers, but his own past achievements. The scene shifted, and suddenly there he was, Aragorn, played by none other than the ex-prince himself. I couldn't help but smile a little. Arthur Morningstar taking on a major role in his own film? It felt almost like déjà vu after The Demonfather, too, but this time, something was different. The usual whispers of skepticism I'd come to expect when a director cast themselves in their own film were noticeably absent. It seemed I wasn't the only one who remembered Arthur's impressive turn in The Demonfather. The doubts that might have plagued us before, worries about the film's quality or fears that it would become a vanity project, they just weren't there. And Arthur didn't disappoint. His portrayal of Aragorn was compelling from the start. There was a quiet strength in the way he pulled Frodo from his nightmare, a sense of barely contained power as he later protected the Hobbit. I found myself nodding in approval. The ex-prince had grown as an actor, that much was clear. The film continued to impress. The wizard duel between Gandalf and Saruman was nothing short of epic, magic crackling across the screen in a display that left me breathless. Then came Frodo's injury and his arrival in Rivendell, each scene building the tension masterfully. The Council of Elrond was a particular highlight. The way the film portrayed the bickering between the races felt genuine, the tensions palpable. When Frodo stepped forward to take on the burden of the ring, I could feel the weight of his decision. But it was Frodo's reunion with Bilbo that truly caught me off guard. The transformation in Bilbo was startling. He'd aged visibly since giving up the ring. It was a touching moment, tinged with sadness, until it wasn't. When Bilbo's face suddenly contorted, reaching for the ring with a hunger that was terrifying in its intensity, I nearly leapt out of my seat. Three around me, I could hear gasps and muffled cries of shock. It was a masterful bit of filmmaking, catching us all off guard just when we'd let our defenses down. Diane James' POV, the newly formed Fellowship of the Ring, set off on their perilous journey. I couldn't help but notice Boromir, another half-demon, half-human like Aragorn, eyeing the One Ring with barely concealed desire. Thank the stars for Aragorn, ever vigilant in his protection of Frodo. Their path was fraught with danger from the start. When they reached the Misty Mountains, Saruman's attack left me slack-jawed. The sheer magical might on display was staggering. Around me, the audience buzzed with excitement and speculation. By the gods, such power, gasped an elf to my left. A dwarf stroked his beard thoughtfully. Must be some legendary spell, that. Not your everyday magic, that's for certain. Forbidden magic, perhaps, a human whispered, a mix of fear and awe in his voice. Point one. I found myself nodding along, equally curious. What kind of magic could have such a devastating effect from miles away? Saruman was clearly a force to be reckoned with, possibly surpassing even the old elves I've known in my life. The Fellowship's journey led them into the mines of Moria, an ancient dwarven city that Gimli hoped to reclaim. The actor portraying Gimli delivered a heart-wrenching performance at Balin's tomb, his grief palpable. Just as I thought I had the measure of this film, just as I believed I knew what challenges the Fellowship would face next, everything changed. They encountered a being called a Balrog. The collective gasp that rippled through the theater mirrored my own shock. The Balrog was a terrifying sight to behold, a massive creature of shadow and flame, with eyes that burned like the depths of hell itself. Its very presence seemed to darken the screen, radiating malevolence. Point one. Before I could stop myself, I blurted out, how in the name of the elven gods did they manage to cast such a being? The critic beside me shook his head in wonder. I've never seen anything like it in all my years. Could it be an illusion? I asked, genuinely baffled. Another critic chimed in, his voice filled with uncertainty. It feels too real for mere illusion, but then again, this is a film. It's hard to tell. My mind raced with possibilities. Did Hellfire Studios somehow pay an astronomical sum to feature some unknown, terrifying creature? Is this where their millions of dollars in budget went? The more I pondered, the more questions I had. The tension in the theater was palpable as we watched the Balrog chase after the Fellowship. My heart raced when Gandalf stayed behind to confront the beast, while Aragorn held back a distraught Frodo. Point three. A chill ran down my spine as a thought struck me. I couldn't help but flash back to Sonny's death in The Demonfather. Surely the ex-prince wouldn't. But even as I silently pleaded for a different outcome, that telltale melancholy theme began to play. You know the one, it might as well scream, someone's about to bite the dust. Gandalf's defiant shout echoed through the theater, you shall not pass, for and just like that, before our disbelieving eyes, Gandalf plummeted into the abyss with the Balrog. The collective gasp from the audience was deafening. No. An elderly mage a few rows ahead cried out. Surprisingly, not a single person shushed him. His outburst merely vocalized what we all felt. As the Fellowship pressed on without their wise guide, I found myself still reeling from the loss. But the film allowed no time for mourning. Before I knew it, we were thrust into a scene where Boromir, overcome by the ring's influence, tried to take it from Frodo. The audience's reaction was swift and harsh. "What a piece of shit," someone hissed behind me. Another voice chimed in, "Aragorn should have just killed him right there." The animosity only intensified when Frodo, left with no choice, put on the ring. Boromir's subsequent regret and desperate calls did little to sway the audience's opinion. I shook my head, listening to the whispers of hate directed at Boromir. While I understood their anger, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for the character. The ring's corruption was a powerful force, after all. But there was no time to dwell on it. The moment Frodo donned the ring, I knew trouble was coming. Sure enough, the enemy sensed his presence, and soon a horde of orcs descended upon the group. As the battle unfolded, I found myself oddly impressed by the orcs' performances. Their commitment to their roles was unexpected, to say the least. It made me wonder about the behind-the-scenes story of their involvement. The fight scenes were intense, each frame filled with action and emotion. Despite my years of watching and critiquing films, I found myself completely engrossed. The battle raged on, with Frodo desperately trying to hide from the orcs. But his friends, bless their hearts, seemed determined to give away his position. Sam and Pippin kept calling out for Frodo at the top of their lungs. A human in the row ahead of me grumbled, "Damn these hobbits, I want to smack some sense into them." "They've been pretty useless so far," his companion agreed. I couldn't help but chuckle at their frustration. But just when I thought Frodo was done for, the hobbits surprised us all by effectively distracting the orcs. Maybe they weren't so useless after all. The intensity of the scenes kept building. Aragorn fought the orcs with a grace that belied the desperation of the situation. Even so, he was clearly overwhelmed by the sheer number of attackers. Then came a twist I didn't see coming. Boromir, the character we'd all grown to despise, suddenly appeared to defend Frodo. "Run, Frodo," he shouted, facing down the horde of orcs. I felt my eyebrows shoot up in surprise. Was this redemption? I could sense the shift in the audience's mood, their hatred for Boromir softening as they watched him fight to protect Frodo. But then the arrows started to hit Boromir, and my heart sank. Oh no. That ex-prince was at it again, sacrificing another character. I braced myself for what I knew was coming. Boromir fought on valiantly, even as the arrows pierced him. When he finally fell to his knees, the orc leader, Lurtz, I think his name was, moved in for the kill. But Aragorn arrived just in time, engaging Lurtz in a fierce duel that ended with the orc's beheading. As Aragorn knelt beside the fallen Boromir, the theater fell silent. We all leaned in, hanging on every word of their exchange. Boromir, his voice weak but urgent, spoke of his fears for his home. "The White City, what will happen to my people?" Aragorn clasped Boromir's hand, his voice steady and reassuring. "I swear to you, I will not let the White City fall, nor our people fail." Boromir's next words hit me like a punch to the gut. "I would have followed you, my brother, my captain, my king." I felt a lump form in my throat. It was beautifully done, I had to admit. Though I couldn't help but notice how Arthur was positioning his character as the linchpin of the story. Clever, if a bit self-aggrandizing. "I failed you all," Boromir whispered, his last words tinged with regret. Aragorn's response was immediate and heartfelt. "No, Boromir, you fought bravely. You have kept your honor." As Boromir breathed his last, I found myself blinking back unexpected tears. Despite my initial skepticism, I had to hand it to Arthur, he knew how to craft a powerful, emotional scene. The ex-prince had done it again, turning a character we initially despised into someone whose death we genuinely mourned. As the battle's aftermath unfolded, I sensed the film drawing to a close. Frodo bid a poignant farewell to his companions, setting off alone in a boat. But just as I thought we'd seen the last surprise, the camera panned to reveal Gollum's twisted figure, his eyes fixed hungrily on Frodo's retreating form. Before I could fully process the implications, the scene shifted dramatically. Ancient trees filled the screen, their branches swaying as they communicated in an unknown, mournful language. The sudden change left me reeling, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. A dragon, majestic and terrifying, soared across the sky before landing with surprising grace. My eyes widened, my mind racing with questions. But before I could even begin to fathom what this meant for the story, the screen faded to black and the credits began to roll. "Did we just experience a cliffhanger?" the critic beside me gasped, his voice a mix of disbelief and excitement. Point 3. I nodded, still processing what we'd just seen. Seems like it, I managed to reply. The term cliffhanger originated from a popular novel series a few decades back, where the author consistently ended chapters with the protagonist in perilous situations, often literally hanging from cliffs. The term caught on, becoming shorthand for any abrupt, suspenseful ending that leaves the audience craving more. Point 1. As the implications of this ending sank in, a thought struck me. Wait, I forget something. How did they manage to get an actor dragged? But before I could finish my question, a thunderous applause erupted around me, drowning out my words. Point 1. Swept up in the moment, I found myself on my feet, my hands coming together almost of their own accord. My unfinished question faded from my mind as I joined in the standing ovation, the energy in the theater electric. As I clapped, I couldn't help but marvel at what I'd just witnessed. Arthur Morningstar had done it again, crafting a film that not only lived up to the hype of the Demonfather but in many ways surpassed it. Arthur POV, as the credits rolled and the applause thundered through the theater, I couldn't wipe the grin off my face. Furful, Imcrag, Kurt, and I made our way to the stage, basking in the glow of our success. The audience settled into their seats as I stepped up to the microphone. I took a deep breath, savoring the moment before speaking. Well, folks, I began, my voice warm with genuine emotion. It seems we've managed to keep you entertained this evening. The crowd erupted in cheers. It was more than entertainment, it was an experience, someone shouted. Another voice chimed in, you've outdone yourself, Morningstar. I chuckled, enjoying their enthusiasm. Glancing at my co-stars, I could see the nervousness radiating off Imcrag and Kurt. Poor guys looked like they might bolt at any second. Even Furful, usually so composed, had a hint of excitement in her eyes. Turning back to the audience, I continued, my film has indeed spoken for itself this evening. And despite not preparing a speech at all, rookie mistake, I know, I can only say that I'm incredibly grateful for how well it's been received. I paused, allowing a hint of genuine emotion to creep into my voice. It wasn't just the film's success that moved me, but also the rewards I'd received for completing my mission. Not that I could tell them that, of course. The audience quieted, picking up on my change in tone. I seized the moment to add, creating this film was no small feat. My team and I faced numerous challenges, from budget constraints to logistical nightmares. It took us over a few months of intense work to bring this vision to life. I glanced around the room, making eye contact with as many people as I could. While my crew couldn't be here tonight, I want to emphasize that this film's greatness isn't just down to my admittedly brilliant directing, I said with a self-deprecating chuckle. It's the result of an incredible team effort. As I wrapped up my speech a few minutes later, the audience broke into applause once more. I caught snippets of conversation from nearby, who knew demons could be so sentimental. Hey, they've got feelings too, you know, one I smiled to myself. If only they knew the real reason behind my emotions, the rewards waiting for me. But that was my little secret. For now, I was content to bask in the afterglow of our success, surrounded by the warmth of the audience's appreciation and the pride of a job well done. Here with me tonight are some of the talented actors who brought this story to life. First, we have Kurt Vault, who played Frodo. Kurt stepped forward, bowing nervously to the crowd. Someone in the back shouted, "You've got to protect the ring, Frodo," eliciting laughter from the audience. The crowd's energy was infectious. Someone called out, "How much for the one ring, Frodo," eliciting chuckles from the audience. I couldn't help but grin as another voice piped up, "Don't listen to them, Lady Frodo." That last comment set off a wave of laughter that swept through the theater. Even I found myself chuckling softly. All right, I said, trying to regain control of the situation. I think Kurt's had enough of the spotlight for now. I turned to introduce the next cast member. Ladies and gentlemen, the actor who brought Gollum to life, Imcrag. Imcrag stepped onto the stage, his hair once again a wild afro now that filming was over. He gave a nervous bow and an awkward wave to the audience. Suddenly, a shrill voice cut through the applause, "Creep." The shout opened the floodgates, and more playful jabs followed, "My precious. Give it to us. Did you brush your teeth today, Gollum? He wants fish, yes he does." I watched Imcrag's face fall, his initial nervousness giving way to genuine hurt. Feeling a pang of guilt, I quickly moved to intervene. As I gently pulled Imcrag back, he looked up at me with worried eyes. "Did I do something wrong, boss?" The vulnerability in his voice made my heart clench. I squeezed his shoulder reassuringly and turned back to the microphone. Seeing Imcraig's crestfallen expression, I felt a pang of guilt. I leaned in close, speaking softly so only he could hear. Hey, don't take it to heart, buddy. They're just joking around. Imcraig's eyes met mine, still uncertain. I continued, trying to inject some encouragement into my voice. Look, you played a villain, and a damn good one at that. They're reacting to Gollum, not you. It means you nailed the role. That's something to be proud of, yeah? A small smile tugged at the corners of Imcraig's mouth. You really think so, boss? I nodded firmly. I know so. Now chin up, you're a star. With Imcraig looking a bit more cheerful, I turned back to the microphone. And last but certainly not least, the talented and beautiful Furful, our Arwen. One as Furful stepped forward, the audience erupted into cheers and whistles. Then the comments started. Hey Arthur, when's the wedding? Aragorn and Arwen, sitting in a tree. Did you write that kiss scene yourself, Arthur? I felt my face heat up, a mix of embarrassment and amusement washing over me. Without thinking, I reached out and pulled Furful closer, which only elicited more laughter and catcalls from the audience. Furful leaned in, her voice low and amused. Unbelievable people, she muttered, but I caught the hint of a smile on her lips. As we made our way off the stage, the audience's enthusiastic applause following us, I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Despite the jokes and jabs, it was clear that our film had made an impact. I glanced at Furful, Imcraig, and Kurt as we headed backstage. They looked tired but happy, still riding the high of the audience's reaction. I knew that this was just the beginning. The premiere afterglow was quickly replaced by the frenzy of the post-screening interviews. My co-stars and I found ourselves surrounded by a swarm of reporters, their eyes glinting with curiosity and hunger for a scoop. Most of them, unsurprisingly, zeroed in on me. An elven reporter with piercing green eyes thrust her microphone towards me. Your film's premiere is an unexpected success. How do you feel? One I couldn't help but smirk a little. Feels great, I said, keeping it simple. Another reporter, a dwarf with an impressively braided beard, chimed in. This new film of yours far surpassed The Demonfather in my opinion. Can you tell us who inspired you to make such a film? Especially, what inspired those powerful ring artifacts? I paused for a moment, my mind racing. Well, I began, crafting my story carefully. I was inspired by my kingdom's ancient artifacts that contained immense power. I thought, why not make a movie about ancient artifacts? Powerful rings, maybe? And then I wrote a script for it. Suddenly, a tall elf with sharp features and cold eyes spoke up. His voice dripped with disdain. Really? Because I couldn't help but notice some familiar elements in your film. The powerful artifacts, the ancient lore. It all feels rather reminiscent of elven history. Care to comment on that? I raised an eyebrow, sensing the trap. History is full of tales about powerful artifacts. I drew inspiration from many sources. The elf, whose name tag read Thorn Silverleaf, pressed on, his facade of politeness slipping. Sources, you say? But isn't it odd how closely your inspiration aligns with elven lore? One might almost call it a rip-off. Furful stepped forward, her eyes flashing. That's quite an accusation, Mr. Silverleaf. Are you suggesting elves have exclusive rights to stories about magical items? Thorn's lip curled. I'm merely pointing out the similarities. But while we're on the topic of questionable practices. He pulled out a folded newspaper. There are some interesting rumors circulating about your previous film, Mr. Morningstar. He unfolded the paper, revealing a headline, The Truth Behind the Demonfather, Ghost Writers and Secret Directors. One care to address these allegations? Thorn asked, his voice dripping with faux concern. It does seem rather unlikely that someone with your background could suddenly produce two blockbusters. I felt a familiar heat building behind my eyes, but before I could respond, Furful cut in. Unlikely? She scoffed. What's unlikely is a so-called professional journalist peddling baseless gossip. Arthur's talent speaks for itself. If you can't see that, perhaps you're in the wrong profession. One Thorn's face reddened. Now see here, no, you see here, Furful interrupted, her voice steely. Your jealousy is showing, Mr. Silverleaf. If you have nothing of substance to contribute, I suggest you leave. There are plenty of reputable journalists here who'd love to ask some actual questions. As Furful and Thorn continued their heated exchange, I remained silent, a storm brewing inside me. I could feel a familiar warmth building behind my eyes, a telltale sign of what was to come. My vision started to blur slightly, and I knew that at any moment, my eyes might shift to that intimidating scarlet hue. 3 Just as I thought I might lose control, a new voice cut through the tension like a knife through butter. My. What an interesting fragrance in the air tonight. Is that, eau de sour grapes I detect? Caden continued, his eyes twinkling as they landed on Thorn. Or perhaps just the pungent aroma of jealousy? It's so hard to tell sometimes. Thorn's face paled as he recognized the legendary critic. He opened his mouth as if to speak, then thought better of it. With a final glare in my direction, he turned on his heel and stalked away. Arthur POV, it all happened in a blur. One moment, Thorn Silverleaf was spewing accusations, and the next, he was scurrying away with his tail between his legs. As the dust settled, I found myself face to face with Caden Aegis. Camera flashes popped like miniature lightning bolts around us. I glanced at Furful, making a mental note to thank her later, before turning to Caden. Thank you, I said, genuinely grateful for his intervention. Caden waved it off with a warm smile. No. If anyone should be thanking anyone, it's me thanking you. He paused, his eyes twinkling. Your film tonight, it truly satisfied my hunger for great cinema. You've created something remarkable, Arthur. He clapped me on the shoulder, his voice taking on a more serious tone. I'll be honest, I had my doubts initially, like many others. But tonight? You proved us all wrong. And I'm delighted to have been proven wrong. I felt a surge of warmth towards Caden. No wonder he was a legend in the industry, he was not only insightful, but genuinely kind and supportive. As the cameras continued to flash, capturing this moment between the infamous prince and the legendary critic, I bowed slightly. It's an honor to receive such high praise from the legendary Caden Aegis. Caden chuckled, waving his hand dismissively. Oh, stop it. I'm just an old critic, that's all. Then, to my surprise, he turned to Furful and gave her a knowing nod. And I see you have good taste in women, too. Congratulations. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving me slightly bewildered. 3 What did he mean by that? I glanced at Furful, suddenly aware of how this might look. We weren't, were we? No, we definitely weren't there. Yet. Shaking off my confusion, I addressed the eager reporters. All right, everyone, we'll be taking our leave now. It's been a long day, and we could all use some rest. As we made our way through the parting crowd, I turned to Furful. Hey, thanks for having my back there. Furful shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. Don't mention it. That reporter was just looking for trouble. After seeing how hard you've worked on this film, I couldn't just stand by. She paused, her eyes meeting mine. Actually, I should be thanking you for bringing me into this masterpiece of a project. I felt a warmth spread through my chest that had nothing to do with my unusual eye-changing ability. As we headed back to our hotel, I couldn't help but feel that something had shifted between us. Whatever it was, I was looking forward to seeing where it might lead. 2 days had flown by since the premiere. Furful, Imcrag, and Kurt had long since returned to the Morningstar Kingdom, but I'd stuck around in the Moonlight Kingdom. There was still fallout from the Lord of the Rings effect to deal with, not to mention potential distributors to wrangle. Not that staying was a hardship. Thanks to the portal stone I'd hidden in a cheap house I'd bought in the city, I could pop back to Furlan City anytime I needed. Gotta love magical shortcuts. 1 As I made my way to the restaurant, I couldn't help but notice the impact Lord of the Rings was having. It had become the darling of the Moonlight Film Festival, and enterprising folks, especially the dwarves, were already cashing in. Handcrafted figurines of Gollum, Frodo, and Aragorn were popping up all over the place. 2 My mind was still buzzing with possibilities as I entered the restaurant, quickly spotting Kyle Love and Fart Lava at a corner table. So, gentlemen, I said as I approached, curiosity getting the better of me, how's progress? Kyle, did we secure enough cinemas for the film? As I took a seat, I noticed an exchange of glances between Kyle and Fart. There was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. What's the matter? I asked, my earlier optimism fading. Kyle was quiet for a moment, his expression grim. We've run into some complications with the distribution. I felt my stomach drop. What kind of complications? Kyle sighed, running a hand through his hair. We've hit a dead end. Titan Pictures is trying to meddle with the distribution. My blood ran cold. Titan Pictures. The name alone was enough to make even the most seasoned filmmakers break out in a cold sweat. One of the biggest studios in the world, based right here in the Evros continent. If they were involved, this could get messy. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process what I was hearing. Okay, let me get this straight. What's Titan Pictures' angle here? Fart cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. It's like this, Mr. Morningstar. Titan Pictures is putting the squeeze on Love Pictures Entertainment. They want to buy out Kyle's licensing contract. Why? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew the answer. So they can renegotiate with you directly, Fart continued. They want to control the distribution across the Evros continent. Kyle nodded grimly. And they're not being subtle about it. They've threatened to block our access to major cinemas around the Moonlight Kingdom if I don't play ball. I felt a surge of anger mixed with disbelief. They're going to these lengths for film distribution? What's got them so desperate to get their hands on my film's rights? Fart sighed, rubbing his temples. Apparently, one of their executives got a look at your film, and well, you can guess the rest. I nodded, understanding dawning. They'd seen the potential, and now they wanted a piece of the pie. Or rather, the whole damn bakery. Kyle leaned forward, his expression pained. Mr. Morningstar, I want you to know, I really don't want to sell the distribution rights. But if I don't, he trailed off, then continued reluctantly, Titan Pictures is threatening to use their media connections to boycott your film. And with their ability to block access to major cinemas, I'm starting to wonder if we have a choice. I sat back, feeling the weight of the situation. I'd naively thought that after the Lord of the Rings premiere, everything would fall into place like it did with the Demonfather. Clearly, I'd underestimated the cutthroat nature of the industry. After mulling it over for a moment, I leaned forward, decision made. Don't sell it, Mr. Love, I said firmly, then added with a wry smile, I've got a feeling that once they get their hands on those rights, they'll squeeze every last penny out of it, leaving me with scraps. Kyle's eyebrows shot up. Are you certain about this, Mr. Morningstar? It's a big risk we'd be taking. I nodded, feeling more confident by the second. I'm sure. Look, a little setback isn't going to kill us. Remember the Demonfather? It faced boycotts, got blocked from major cinemas, and still, look at how that box office turned out. Fart leaned in, his expression grave. With all due respect, Mr. Morningstar, this is a different situation. The Demonfather caught everyone off guard. Nobody expected it to blow up like it did, so the boycotts and blocks weren't as aggressive. But now? He shook his head. Titan Pictures knows what they're dealing with. They'll pull out all the stops, team up with their partners. They're not going to underestimate you this time. He's got a point, Kyle chimed in, his eyes clouded with worry. You're not flying under the radar anymore. They know what you're capable of now. I couldn't help but smile, feeling a surge of confidence, despite the grim faces before me. Gentlemen, I said, leaning forward, a truly great film will shine through, no matter how many stones of accusation are thrown at it. I could see the doubt in their eyes, but I wasn't intimidated by Titan Pictures or their threats. In fact, a part of me was almost looking forward to their attempts to bring us down. Look, I continued, where there's sugar, there are ants, right? No matter how well you hide it or how far away you put it, the ants will find it eventually. Kyle and Fart exchanged confused glances, clearly not following my train of thought. I chuckled, deciding to spell it out for them. Our film, Lord of the Rings, is the sugar. The filmgoers are the ants. No matter what Titan Pictures does, if people want to see our film, they'll find a way. I could see understanding dawning in their eyes, but the worry hadn't completely faded. In fact, I added, warming to my theme, their attempts to boycott us might actually work in our favor. Bad publicity is still publicity, after all. They might end up drawing more attention to our film than we ever could on our own. Fart shook his head, looking bewildered. You really think their efforts to bring us down could actually help us? I nodded, feeling more certain by the second. Of course. People love an underdog story. The more they try to suppress us, the more curious people will become about what all the fuss is about. I could see that Kyle and Fart were still worried, and I understood their concern. They hadn't yet seen firsthand how the machinations of big studios could backfire, inadvertently boosting the very film they were trying to squash. Trust me, I said, meeting their eyes in turn. I've been the underdog my whole life. Sometimes, that's the best position to be in. We're going to ride this wave, gentlemen, and come out stronger on the other side. I sat back, feeling the weight of the situation. I'd naively thought that after the Lord of the Rings premiere, everything would fall into place like it did with the Demonfather. Clearly, I'd underestimated the cutthroat nature of the industry. After mulling it over for a moment, I leaned forward, decision made. Don't sell it, Mr. Love, I said firmly, then added with a wry smile, I've got a feeling that once they get their hands on those rights, they'll squeeze every last penny out of it, leaving me with scraps. One Kyle's eyebrows shot up. Are you certain about this, Mr. Morningstar? It's a big risk we'd be taking. I nodded, feeling more confident by the second. I'm sure. Look, a little setback isn't going to kill us. Remember the Demonfather? It faced boycotts, got blocked from major cinemas, and still, look at how that box office turned out. Fart leaned in, his expression grave. With all due respect, Mr. Morningstar, this is a different situation. The Demonfather caught everyone off guard. Nobody expected it to blow up like it did, so the boycotts and blocks weren't as aggressive. But now? He shook his head. Titan Pictures knows what they're dealing with. They'll pull out all the stops, team up with their partners. They're not going to underestimate you this time. He's got a point, Kyle chimed in, his eyes clouded with worry. You're not flying under the radar anymore. They know what you're capable of now. I couldn't help but smile, feeling a surge of confidence, despite the grim faces before me. Gentlemen, I said, leaning forward, a truly great film will shine through, no matter how many stones of accusation are thrown at it. One, I could see the doubt in their eyes, but I wasn't intimidated by Titan Pictures or their threats. In fact, a part of me was almost looking forward to their attempts to bring us down. Look, I continued, where there's sugar, there are ants, right? No matter how well you hide it or how far away you put it, the ants will find it eventually. Kyle and Fart exchanged confused glances, clearly not following my train of thought. I chuckled, deciding to spell it out for them. Our film, Lord of the Rings, is the sugar. The filmgoers are the ants. No matter what Titan Pictures does, if people want to see our film, they'll find a way. I could see understanding dawning in their eyes, but the worry hadn't completely faded. In fact, I added, warming to my theme, their attempts to boycott us might actually work in our favor. Bad publicity is still publicity, after all. They might end up drawing more attention to our film than we ever could on our own. Fart shook his head, looking bewildered. You really think their efforts to bring us down could actually help us? I nodded, feeling more certain by the second. Of course. People love an underdog story. The more they try to suppress us, the more curious people will become about what all the fuss is about. I could see that Kyle and Fart were still worried, and I understood their concern. They hadn't yet seen firsthand how the machinations of big studios could backfire, inadvertently boosting the very film they were trying to squash. Trust me, I said, meeting their eyes in turn. I've been the underdog my whole life. Sometimes, that's the best position to be in. We're going to ride this wave, gentlemen, and come out stronger on the other side. Third-person POV, the room held its collective breath as Harold Green fingered the envelope containing the winner of the Lunar Laurel for Best Director. He cleared his throat, milking the moment for all it was worth. And the award goes to Lord of the Rings, directed by Arthur Morningstar. 3. The announcement hit like a thunderclap. A beat of silence, then a cacophony of reactions. This can't be possible, an elf filmmaker muttered, his face a mask of disbelief. He wasn't alone. The room buzzed with shocked whispers. Sure, Lord of the Rings had been cleaning up in the minor categories, but this? This was different. The main awards were supposed to be above such upsets. All eyes turned to Arthur Morningstar, the infamous prince-turned-filmmaker, as he made his way to the stage. He accepted the silver award, looking almost as surprised as everyone else. Point 2. Harold beamed, practically bouncing on his toes. You're making history, Arthur Morningstar. First demon filmmaker to win a main award at this festival, and your film sweeping the board. One. Arthur blinked, as if trying to process it all. Yeah, it's something all right. Honestly, I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that this festival was willing to embrace a film from a demon. Harold's smile widened. At this festival, we don't care if it's made by demons, elves, or even orcs. Good cinema is good cinema. 3. Arthur chuckled, the sound a mix of amusement and lingering disbelief. In the audience, a sea of sour faces. Filmmakers who'd been so sure of their chances now sat rigid in their seats, a bitter taste in their mouths. The word cheated hung unspoken in the air. But for the journalists present, it was a feeding frenzy. Pens flew across notepads, cameras flashed. This was history in the making, a demon film shattering records and expectations at the Moonlight Film Festival. The excitement only grew when Lord of the Rings snagged the Celestial Crown for Best Film. It was a clean sweep, unprecedented and undeniable. Well, almost undeniable. In the back of the room, a cluster of journalists from Titan Pictures owned papers huddled together, faces grim. They'd been under orders to trash Lord of the Rings, but this made their job significantly harder. One rigged festival, one suggested half-heartedly. Another sighed. Maybe we can spin it as a shocking upset that calls the integrity of the whole event into question. 3 They knew it was weak, but what choice did they have? Sometimes, the story writes itself, whether you like it or not. The Moonlight Film Festival was a grand spectacle that drew over 50,000 visitors from across the world to Moon City. Yet, ironically, the majority of the city's 300,000 residents barely gave it a second glance. Most were too caught up in their daily grind to spare a thought for the cinematic extravaganza unfolding in their midst. Still, the festival was a source of pride for the kingdom, and even the busiest locals kept an ear to the ground. They might not have had time to watch the films, but they devoured the newspaper coverage, eager to stay in the loop. Among the myriad of films mentioned, one title kept popping up: Lord of the Rings. It wasn't the glowing reviews or critical acclaim that etched this name into the public consciousness, though. No, it was the relentless barrage of negative press that made it unforgettable. Day after day, the city's major newspapers plastered their front pages with scathing headlines about Lord of the Rings. The sheer volume and vitriol of the criticism was impossible to ignore. It was as if the papers were waging a personal vendetta against the film. Ironically, this constant thrashing had the opposite effect of what was likely intended. Instead of burying Lord of the Rings in obscurity, it elevated the film to a topic of widespread curiosity and discussion. Even those who had no interest in cinema found themselves wondering about this apparently controversial movie that had riled up the press so thoroughly. 1 The morning after the Moonlight Film Festival's conclusion, the streets of Moon City buzzed with activity. A young elf, his voice cracking with excitement, darted between pedestrians, waving fresh newspapers. Extra! Extra! Demon Film dominates Moonlight Film Festival. Sweeps award categories. Get your morning news here. An older elf, his curiosity piqued, approached the boy. What's this about a demon film dominating what now? The newsboy grinned, sensing a sale. All the details are right here, sir. Just 1 coin for the full story. With a sigh and a shake of his head, the elf fished out a coin. This better be worth it, lad. Thank you, sir. Enjoy your read. The boy pocketed the coin and darted off to his next potential customer. The elf unfolded the paper, his eyebrows shooting up as he read the bold headline: Lord of the Rings conquers Moonlight Film Festival. Demon film claims top honors, sparking controversy. As he walked, the elf muttered under his breath, the festival, rigged? Surely not. Around him, other passers-by were engrossed in their own copies, their reactions a mix of disbelief and intrigue. This calls for an investigation, a dwarf grumbled to his companion. Agreed, the other nodded. The integrity of the festival is at stake. Not everyone was focused on potential scandal, though. A pair of humans nearby seemed more interested in the film itself. I'm curious to see just how bad this Lord of the Rings really is, one mused. Her friend scoffed. I heard Love Pictures Entertainment is distributing it. Always knew Kyle Love was in cahoots with demons. Arthur POV, and so it begins. I sifted through the stack of newspapers I just bought, my eyes skimming the headlines. A handful praised Lord of the Rings, highlighting its historic win for demon entertainment. But the major papers? They were out for blood. Lord of the Rings, a stolen tale, screamed one headline. Film festival rigged? Demon movie sweep raises eyebrows, declared another. Moonlight Festival loses credibility with controversial win, a third proclaimed. I tossed the papers aside with a snort. Let them rant and rave. In the end, success speaks louder than any headline. And I knew, deep in my bones, that Lord of the Rings would have the last laugh. 1 As I stuffed the last of my belongings into my travel bag, my mind wandered to the journey ahead. Sure, I could pop back to the Morningstar Kingdom in an instant thanks to my handy portal. But sometimes, the old-fashioned way has its perks. For one, I needed to maintain appearances. An exiled prince suddenly materializing out of thin air might raise a few too many eyebrows. Plus, the airport would be crawling with reporters and industry folks. A perfect opportunity to gauge reactions, maybe drop a few choice quotes for the press to chew on. And if I'm being honest? A part of me wanted to savor this moment. To feel the weight of that lunar laurel in my bag, to see the sideways glances and whispered conversations as I walked through the terminal. Let them wonder, let them gossip. The story of the demon who conquered the Moonlight Film Festival was just beginning. With a final glance around the room, I shouldered my bag and headed for the door. Time to face the music and maybe conduct a little orchestra of my own. Arthur's POV, as I made my way down the sidewalk, the whispers followed me like a bad smell. They weren't even trying to be subtle about it. Is that Arthur Morningstar? The one who supposedly rigged our prestigious film festival? Must be. Despicable demon, isn't he? I kept my face neutral, pushing down the urge to roll my eyes. Then an elf nearby decided to get bold. Go back to your kingdom, demon, he spat. I turned, meeting his gaze coolly. That's the plan. Their words didn't really get under my skin. After all, they were just parroting what they'd heard, dancing to Titan Pictures' tune like good little puppets. Obviously, none of them had actually seen Lord of the Rings. Their loss. But soon enough, when the film hit cinemas across the Moonlight Kingdom, they'd see for themselves. For now, Titan Pictures was doing my marketing for me, free of charge. Couldn't ask for better publicity, really. As I approached the airport, I couldn't help but smile, thinking about my latest reward from the system. Heartstrings, a rare and powerful emotional manipulation skill that enables the director to subtly shape the emotions of their actors, drawing out deeply authentic and captivating performances. It was still at level 1, only affecting 3 actors at a time for 5 shoots a day, before exhaustion set in. But with practice, who knew how far I could push it? I was no stranger to leveling up skills, after all. Nether Surge had taught me patience. The moment I stepped into the airport, I was swarmed by reporters. Their questions hit me like a wave. How do you respond to the accusations of rigging the film festival? I kept my cool, my voice level as I responded. How could a demon like me possibly influence the festival? Only good films can sway the MFF. And my film? It's a damn good film. As the reporter scribbled furiously, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction. Let them write their hit pieces. In the end, the film would speak for itself. After weathering a storm of accusations from journalists in Moon City, I finally boarded an airship back to the Morningstar Kingdom. 2 days and several layovers later, I touched down in Furland Airport. No surprise, a swarm of demon reporters was waiting for me like vultures circling a carcass. The moment I stepped into view, they descended en masse. Mr. Morningstar. We've heard about your film dominating the MFF. How does it feel to make history for demon entertainment? I plastered on my best media smile. Pretty damn good, if I'm being honest. I reached into my bag, pulling out the Lunar Laurel trophy. Might as well give them a show. Being the first demon to snag this prestigious award? It's an honor, and yeah, I'm proud as hell. The reporter's eyes bulged as they gawked at the award. You'd think I was holding the keys to the kingdom or something. Then, predictably, came the question I'd been asked 100 times back in Moon City. What's your response to the controversy about rigging the MFF? The crowd went quiet, all eyes on me. I glanced at the reporter who'd asked, noting the BM newspaper logo on his jacket. Ah, Bobby's rag. No wonder. I sighed, not bothering to hide my exasperation. Look, I've answered this question more times than I can count back in Moon City. If you're that curious, wait for the elf newspapers to hit the stands. They've got all my responses in black and white. As I pushed past the stunned reporters, I couldn't help but smirk. Let them chew on that for a while. I had bigger fish to fry. Third-person POV, news of Arthur Morningstar's Lord of the Rings dominating the prestigious MFF spread like wildfire through the Morningstar Kingdom. The demon populace was torn. Pride in their race's achievement warred with their dislike of the weak ex-prince. Some basked in the reflected glory, while others, fueled by rumors of rigging, spat disgust at Arthur's name. Among the latter group, none burned with more fury than Bobby Morningstar. In the BM newspaper office, he paced like a caged animal, his face twisted in a snarl. "This is unacceptable," Bobby roared, slamming his fist on the desk. He whirled on Ashen Gray, CEO of Demon Pictures. "How is my worthless brother getting all this attention? And why isn't my colored film, screening for 2 weeks now, producing better sales? Explain yourself, Gray." Ashen maintained his composure, though a muscle twitched in his jaw. "With all due respect, Your Highness, it's not our studio's fault. We poured everything into making your film the best it could be. Then why isn't it popular yet?" Bobby cut in, his voice rising to a shout. Ashen fell silent, internally kicking himself. He regretted agreeing to Bobby's vanity project, but even more, he cursed himself for turning down Arthur's proposal. That film had raked in millions upon millions. The thought made Ashen want to bang his head against the wall. Noticing Ashen's silence, Bobby pressed on. "And my brother's second film is getting all this buzz? How do you explain that?" Ashen's face screamed, "How should I know?" but he kept his tone measured. "Your Highness, even before the ex-prince's second film was made, it was under intense scrutiny. I believe it's a domino effect from the Demonfather's success. That film created such a stir, it naturally drummed up interest in his next project." Bobby listened, nodding reluctantly. "I suppose that makes sense." But the sour expression never left his face. "Arthur POV, honey, I'm home," I called out as I strolled into the studio, unable to keep the grin off my face. The crew's head snapped up, a chorus of grins breaking out across the room. "Welcome back, boss," George bellowed, though the knowing glint in his eye reminded me of our little portal secret. The computer team and I had been playing a bit of interdimensional hopscotch lately. Lilith practically bounced over. "We heard about the MFF success. Is it true? Can we see the hardware?" Klein chimed in, eyes wide with anticipation. A chorus of "yeah," and "show us," erupted from the group. I couldn't help but chuckle. These guys, most of them fresh out of the Infernal Institute of Cinematic Arts, were practically salivating at the thought of seeing a real MFF award up close. Can't say I blamed them. All right, I said, reaching into my bag. "Feast your eyes on these beauties." The moment the awards came out, I was swarmed. Again. Felt like déjà vu after all those reporter mobs. But this felt good. They oohed and awed over the trophies, particularly the Lunar Laurel for Best Director and the Celestial Crown for Best Film. Just as I was basking in the team's excitement, a familiar gravelly voice cut through the chatter. "Congratulations, Your Highness." We all turned to see Rocky, decked out in a suit that actually fit him for once, a warm smile on his weathered face. I couldn't help but grin back. "Rocky, you old dog. Looking sharp. Come to join the celebration?" Rocky's smile widened as he sauntered over. "The moment I heard your second flick was sweeping the MFF, I hightailed it over here. Seems you've gone and made another masterpiece." He raised an eyebrow, a hint of mock accusation in his voice. "Without me, I might add." I couldn't help but chuckle. "Oh, come on, Rocky. You're a bona fide superstar now. Didn't think you'd need little old me anymore." Rocky rolled his eyes, but the corners of his mouth twitched upward. He leaned in to get a better look at the awards. "Next time, don't leave me out of the fun, yeah? Thanks to you, I can't exactly go back to hawking tickets at my old theater without causing a riot. Need something to keep me from going stir-crazy." I clapped him on the shoulder, grinning. All right. Next time we cook up some movie, you'll be my first call. Can't have our resident celebrity wasting away from boredom, can we?" Rocky's eyes lit up, though he tried to play it cool. "Well, if you insist. Someone's got to keep you young whippersnappers in line."